Ayo, it is 2021, ladies and gentlemen. We got new graphics cards that came out late 2020 on both AMD and Nvidia fronts, and we got new consoles with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series new generation of consoles. It's never been a better time to bring up the age-old debate, PC versus console. Which should you go with? What should you buy? I'm going to be weighing the pros and cons of each console. I'm going to be doing pros for console, cons for console, pros for PC, cons for PC. Hopefully this will help you guys make up your mind. Check out the timestamps to hop around the video and go through these categories. And yeah, consider subscribing, hit that sub, smash that like. Let us know down below if you are a PC or console diehard. I'm personally, well, both. So let's start with the pros for the console. First thing that I want to talk about, and this is important, is plug and play. You plug that console in, you put a game in, or you download a game, you're off to the races. That's it, dude. As we're going to talk later in the cons for PC, it can be a huge pain in the ass to, when you get your new game and you boot it up, just figuring out, tweaking with the settings, trying to get the performance that you want. With a console, I mean, you might not be satisfied with the performance, but you don't have a choice, right? You can't do anything about it. You're stuck with what you got. So plug and play, right? There's just no thinking about it. You put the game in, the game works. I probably spent an hour and a half getting Cyberpunk 2077 to work well enough on my PC, which is, yeah, annoying when you just want to be playing the game. And for consoles, I would argue they are much better to be played in the living room. I know that might be a con for some people, and I know that you can play PCs in the living room, but from my experience, it's kind of a pain in the ass. Even Steam Big Picture doesn't quite solve it for me. It's just nice to have this nice intuitive user interface, this nice operating system that's designed to be used with a controller on the couch from hitting power to go. PC, it's a little more annoying. Chances are you're on Windows 10. You boot that thing up, it's hard to do it from the other side of your couch, or from the other side of your room, that's for damn sure. You're going to want to get up off your ass, hit the power button, get out your keyboard or your little miniature keyboard to type in your password, launch Steam Big Picture, pick up your controller, pair your... It sucks. It can be done, but consoles better for the living room. Optimized games. So you usually get better graphics for the buck on consoles, especially out of the gate with this first console generation, and extra especially when it comes to first-party games. Say what you will, Last of Us Part 2 and God of War are some of the best looking games ever made. I don't care what you say. And those games, they are console exclusive games. First party studios are totally 100% dedicated to their given platform. Naughty Dog is making PlayStation 4 and now PlayStation 5 games. They only have to focus on that one set of spec, whereas PC game makers, they have to consider literally every single PC part. It's impossible to optimize the game, basically. You get amazing graphics on consoles from first-party titles, sometimes better than what a PC multiplat can push out. Sometimes, with consoles, you get a Nintendo Switch, right? And yeah, I know most people probably, when they're thinking, should I go PC or console, they're not thinking, should I go PC or Nintendo Switch? But hey, sometimes there are some really cool hidden perks on your console. Switch isn't really a hidden perk. You can take the thing portably, and I know that there's portable gaming laptops, but occasionally consoles have cool little quirks like that you just, it's either very hard to get on the PC, and I would argue the Switch is even much different from a gaming laptop. Sometimes you just get some weird cool features, and usually it's Nintendo that does that. I mean, motion control, you're not really doing that with PC gaming, and if you're interested in that, well, you're kind of stuck with Nintendo. Physical games, if you guys are still into physical games, yeah, you can get boxed PC games, but for the most part, you're all digital. And while that's a dying trend on console, hey, you can still get your hands on some physical games for console, and you can still buy consoles with disk drives built in. Not that you can't build a PC with a disk drive, it's just much harder to come by those physical games. Consoles are smaller, typically. If you're good at building a PC, then you're probably not watching this debate. You can build a PC very small, that's sure, but most PCs are going to be bigger than the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S or X, and they draw significantly lower power if that is a concern to you. And last but not least is the price. Consoles are typically lower priced for the performance, especially early in the console generation, and this is most definitely the case with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One. However, there's a caveat to price, and we'll talk about that later in the cons for consoles. But let's talk about some of the pros for the PC. So first off, it's a literal computer. You can do computing stuff with it, like, oh, I don't know, edit the video that you're watching right now. You can do streaming directly, on your PC. You can do your homework on it. You can do literally anything you can do on a computer. You have not only a computer, but a good gaming computer, which can do things like CAD work. It can do things like video editing. It can do that heavy lifting stuff that you might not have been able to do on your laptop, and that's pretty cool. It has the features of the future. PC players have been playing with ray tracing since 2+ years ago. We've been playing with VR for literally since 2013. 4K, that shit's been around forever for PC. You name it, it started on PC, and the next cool tech is also probably going to start on PC. You have endless customization from your hardware to your looks to your game settings. Maybe you just got, Cyberpunk 2077, and you want to play it at 4K 30 frames per second. Sure, you can do that, but what if you prefer 1440p at 60 frames per second instead? You can just go into the settings and change it. It's totally up to you. Consoles, you're kind of at the mercy of what you are given, and sometimes your options are not very good. Free online, this is a huge thing that we are going to talk about in the cons for console. Online is free to play on PC. Hopefully forever. God, I can't imagine what would happen if Steam came up with some paid online service. For now and since the beginning, you've always been able to play all of your online games for free on PC. You have more stores to choose from on PC. This is a con for consoles. You're kind of bound to the Xbox store or the PlayStation store on consoles. With PC, you're good to go. You can go on Steam, you can go on Origin, you can go on the Ubisoft Uplay store, you can go on the Epic Games store, you can go on tons of different storefronts, or as always, physical games, which basically increases the amount of competition, the amount of sales that you'll get, the amount of options you have. Like maybe GOG has a sale for The Witcher 3, maybe Epic Games Store has a deeper sale for Outer Wilds. It's up to you, and you can basically get more deals by going online with more of those store options. And there is no generation. I mean, there kind of is with PC, but for the most part, you're back compat all the way. If you build a new PC, your entire library comes with it. Like, that's just how it is. There are rare exceptions for super old games that just aren't supported anymore for one reason or another, but usually some kind of re-release or something rectifies the issue. But you're pretty much back compat, guaranteed for the 90 to 95% of your library forever, which is pretty sick. And just flat out, you straight up learn more on PC. If you choose to build your own PC or go with a pre-built, one way or another, you're gonna have to learn a little bit about computers, the easy way or the hard way. You're either gonna have something's gonna break on your pre-built and you're gonna have to diagnose it and repair that part, or you're gonna have to learn from scratch how to build your own computer. You're gonna have to learn how to optimize games. You're gonna have to learn a thing or two about computers one way or another. Whereas consoles, like I said, as a pro, it's plug and play. There are pros on both sides. It's a pro to be plug and play if that's what you want. It's also a pro to have to learn more if that's what you're looking for. Let's talk about the cons for consoles though. First thing I want to talk about is online price. Like, what the fuck, Xbox? You are now charging $120 per year for Xbox Live Gold. That is just stupid. I just want to call that out. Buy that shit on sale, please. I don't know, man. This is really bad. Over time, that adds up. I mean, just for an example, like 3 years of gold is the cost of an Xbox Series S. That's just stupid. And that $500 Xbox Series X is going to cost more than an $800 gaming PC within 3 years. That is an insane amount of price gouging before you even take into things like Game Pass or PlayStation Now that you probably are interested in if you're on the console side of things. And the last con that I want to talk about for consoles are the online store. You only get one online store. You're pretty much either bound to the Xbox store or the PlayStation store, no exceptions, and you're kind of at the mercy of what they want to sell you and at the price they want to sell it to you. There's no like secondhand key store really on these platforms. If they want to give you a sale, they'll give you a sale. Otherwise, you're going to be paying full price. And with half of the consoles, with the all-digital PS5 and the Series S not having disk drives anymore, you're even more at their mercy than ever before. PC, you, like I said, have the option to shop around, basically, and that is ultimately in the benefit of the consumer. So let's talk about the cons for the PC platform. Well, typically it is more expensive. There's not really, especially at the beginning of the console lifespan, like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 offer extremely competitive performance per dollar for a comparative PC. It would be pretty hard to build a comparable PC with and be able to run these optimized games. That's it. There are very impressive machines. However, like I said, that expense is up front. So you might be buying an $800 PC to match something like an Xbox Series X, but over time, the price of these online subscriptions and other ways that they nickel and dime you is gonna add up, and you will ultimately be paying more for that console over the console's lifetime. Whereas PC, you can selectively decide your performance and upgrade it as you please. Typically, games on PC are less optimized. We already talked about first-party platforms and studios delivering amazing first-party games with amazing visuals. Well, usually on the PC, you're getting less optimized games, and that's because they have to take into account literally every single spec. They're not just coding to one particular platform and setting one set of settings, so it is kind of a little bit on you to get the most bang for your buck out of your PC. And usually you do need a bit beefier hardware to get competent visuals to a console performance. You need to optimize your own games. I was alluding to this already. If you put in a new game and it's not performing like you want it, well, you have to dig into the settings and figure out how to get the game to work exactly the way you want. You also need to research if you can even run the game. This becomes a problem for lower end PCs, or once your PC is getting later in its life. You have to, before a game comes out, you don't just hit pre-order. You have to look at the spec sheet. You have to look at the recommended versus the minimum settings, and you have to gauge, can I run this game? Do I need to upgrade some hardware? Is it going to be worth upgrading some hardware to play this game? These are things that you have to think about, usually later in the PC's lifespan, but still it's worth mentioning. And you're kind of more on the hook if something breaks. If something breaks, you're not sending it into Microsoft or Sony, right? Or just getting a replacement or taking it to the console repair store. You're kind of on the hook. If something goes wrong, you have to diagnose it yourself. I mean, yeah, there are computer repair shops, but I think for the most part, you would be having to figure out, did one of my RAM stick die? Is there problems with the CPU cooling? And you kind of have to keep your ear to the ground on your PC's performance and always be thinking about what maybe is going to go, how's the health of the computer, and kind of stay on top of it. It's not as hard as it sounds, but it is something you have to think about. So, in conclusion, what I'll say is the 2021 consoles are looking kind of thick. The PlayStation 5 and Series X are delivering insane performance per dollar, for now at least. Long term, the PC will be worth it, and those online subscription fees you're paying for will add up eventually. Both PC and console are valid choices, but weighing the pros and cons are worth it before taking the plunge or switching platforms. That is all from me, guys. I will catch you next time.